her earphone as she turned up the volume on the van's shotgun mic. "Arrivederci," Bennett said playfully to his rambunctious family as he went down the stairs. "Sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, and oh yeah, later, guys." The woman in the van watched silently as Bennett smiled and crossed his eyes and stuck his tongue out at his family. He was pushing 40, but still tall and trim and handsome in his dark blue suit. Biting at her lower lip, she didn't stop focusing until his dimples and pale, blue-gray eyes slid out of the bottom of the frame into the SUV. As the Ford rocketed out into the street, the amber-haired woman had already put down the joystick and was wheeling the captain's chair around toward the three men in bulky tactical gear sitting and sweating on the steel bench behind her. If it hadn't been for the glistening, snub-barreled Heckler and Koch machine guns in their laps, the large men could have been professional football players. Wide receivers in the huddle waiting for the quarterback to call the next play. "To repeat one last time," she said calmly as the work van's engine suddenly roared to life and they lurched into the street. "Front door, side door, back door. When the doors pop, you will stay low until you are in position." The poised woman quickly lifted her own submachine gun from the foam-lined hard case at her feet. Easily and expertly, she worked the H&K MP7's action, slamming the first HK 4.6 30mm cartridge into the gun's chamber with a loud snap. "This isn't a drill, gentlemen," she said, looking up at the Bennett safe house growing rapidly now on the flat screen. "Welcome to life and death." 2. "So," I suddenly called out into the SUV's dead silence after 5 minutes of zigzagging up and down and hither and yon over the roller coaster roads of the Hollywood Hills. "Anybody read any good books lately?" I smiled encouragingly at each of the 4 large gentlemen sitting around me, but try as I might, I couldn't get the conversational ball rolling. Not one of the armed-to-the-teeth business-attired behemoths I was riding with smiled back or even said a word. I thought briefly about trying to start up a hearty round of 99 bottles of beer on the wall to break the ice, but then I finally dropped my grin and shrugged. "Yeah, me neither," I mumbled as I turned back to the bulletproof window. "Exactly. Who reads?" I guess I couldn't really blame the fellas for ignoring me. My U.S. Marshal buddies were busy at work, busy keeping their eyes peeled for things like snipers and machine gun ambushes and IEDs as we made our way from my Hollywood Hills safe house toward downtown Los Angeles. I was being accompanied by the marshals so early this Monday morning because of a trial. The DEA had tried and convicted 5 of the recently deceased Manuel the Sun God Perrine's DePito cartel pals in a huge coke bust, and were about to sentence the drug soldiers today. I was involved because, in addition to the drug charges, the cartel death squad had already been convicted in absentia of the murder of a federal ADA in New York, a woman named Tara McClellan, who had been a very close friend of mine. I'd spoken to her still devastated family, and death threats or no death threats, I was going to the courtroom today to speak for her at the victim's impact statement. On a happier note, after the trial, it was going to be checkout time for me and the Bennett clan from the Hotel California. The Golden State had been a nice place to visit, but we were finally going back home to the Big Apple where we belonged. Myself, and especially my stomach, really couldn't have been happier. The 4 corners of my carb-jonesing Irish heart, real pizza, real bagels, real rolls, and especially real Italian bread, were a mere day away. As was our freedom from all this aggravating hiding and security, I thought, glancing at the marshals who had been nothing but expert in their care of my family during our time in the Witness Protection Program. In 24 hours, we'd finally be home in New York with our lives back. Now all I had to do was get through them. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, I hummed to myself as I stared out at the insanely blue California sky. 3. I was in the midst of a daydream where I was locked in overnight at an Arthur Avenue bakery with several tubs of breakstones lightly salted and a butter knife when we pulled off 101 and approached the white stone pile of the Los Angeles Federal Court in downtown LA Civic Center. That was when my gluten